Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be talking all about where to sell your luxury items and my personal experiences with a few different platforms that I've used to sell my own luxury items. So this is going to include Poshmark, eBay, the Realreal, Fashionphile, Yoogi's Closet, as well as Rebag. And I'm also going to talk about a few different tips and tricks if you want to try to sell it on your own first. So I think that this video is probably a little bit more geared towards those of you guys who live in the US, but at the same time, I still think that there is quite a lot of useful information that can be applied even if you don't live in the US. So yeah, I really hope that this video is informative and helpful for you guys, and I will be covering a lot in this video. So if you want to jump ahead to any specific website or platform, I'll leave timestamps in the description box below for each of the ones that I will be mentioning. And if you guys have had any experiences personally with any of the ones that I will be talking about in today's video, or even if you've used some other ones that I personally haven't used before, I would love it if you could leave a comment down below just letting us know your experience, whether it's good or bad, so anyone who is watching this video could get multiple opinions before they choose a platform to sell their own luxury items. So yeah, with all that being said, let's get into this video. So first I want to talk about selling on your own. So whether that is selling through your Instagram account or your YouTube channel or using a Facebook group that is dedicated to buying and selling certain luxury items, this is probably going to be the route that will get you the most money back because you aren't paying a third party to facilitate the purchase. And when the transaction is done, the money is in your pocket and you don't have to worry about the customer potentially trying to find faults with an item when there really isn't one and trying to force a return. So yeah, you definitely have the most control in a situation like this. But the thing is, it's not at all easy to move your items and find a buyer for the item who is not trying to lowball you unless you have something that is highly coveted and is kind of selling at a premium in general, like for example, highly coveted Chanel items or something from Hermes, and Louis Vuitton also does really well also. I mean, these are the usual suspects in general for anything related to luxury, but unless it's something like that, I find that it is not that easy to find someone to buy it at an acceptable price. So prior to me having this YouTube channel, this was not a route that I ever used. I just found that I needed to have the item on a website or a platform that got more eyes looking at it. And even now with this YouTube channel, you know, I have a decent amount of subscribers and a good amount of people viewing my videos. So half a year back, I did a vlog sale and I had around 20 items in that vlog sale, and about half of them I ended up selling using the other platforms that I will be talking about in this video, because the thing with selling on your own is you get a good amount of eyes looking at the items when you first post an item for sale, but it kind of tapers off eventually, and unless you are constantly promoting it, then people aren't going to be seeing your post after a while because there will be a bunch of other things that they will see that is available for sale. And I think that a lot of people are focused on sellers potentially being scammers, but it works both ways. There are a lot of people posing as buyers that are scammers themselves also. So if something doesn't feel right, don't go through with the transaction, because there are such elaborate schemes that people have put together to try to scam someone out of the luxury item that they're selling also. So even when I am selling something on Poshmark or eBay, sometimes people will message me and say, oh, do you want to take this transaction off of these websites, which will kind of turn into one of these situations when you're selling on your own. But the way that they phrase the message is just really sketchy, and I would not sell it to them off of that platform. I wouldn't even sell it to them on that platform. So just listen to your gut. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. And the other major thing that I want to mention about selling on your own is definitely do your research beforehand. So even if you choose to not use any of these platforms that I will be talking about in today's video and you try to sell it on your own first, you can still use those websites to research the different prices that similar items have sold at and price yours accordingly. So one of the major mistakes that I've made is that I would price things too low. So when I first started this channel and before I did the vlog sale, people would email me and Instagram DM me and ask if I was selling certain luxury items, and I would say, yeah, I'm kind of okay with letting it go. So I would give them a price that I was kind of okay with letting it go at. But ultimately, I think luckily for me, those people never ended up buying it, because what I realized afterwards is those prices were actually way too low. So yeah, they missed out. But do your research beforehand. That's basically the most important thing about trying to sell on your own. And next I want to talk about Poshmark, which is quite a popular platform nowadays, not specifically for luxury items though. And Poshmark does take quite a bit for commission. They do take 20%, which is very hefty considering that you are still trying to sell it yourself and trying to promote the item yourself and whatnot. It's not like you're consigning the item where a place like the Realreal is taking the photos and posting it and taking care of shipping and all of that stuff. So yeah, this is very hefty for what it is. But the bright side of it is that they do offer free authentication over $500. The buyer only has 3 days to accept an item, and if they don't accept it, then your funds get released to you automatically after 3 days. Also, they do USPS priority shipping, so it's usually, I want to say, around 2 days from when you ship it to when it gets to the buyer's home. So it's approximately 5 days when you get your money, unless it has to go through authentication, which in that case then it takes a little bit more time because it has to go to Poshmark first. And unless the buyer opens the case in that 3-day time frame, then it is final sale. You get your money decently quickly, and it's not like something like eBay where you might have the buyer opening a case in a much longer time frame. And for me personally, I think that peace of mind is definitely worth a little bit of a higher commission. Also, Poshmark does either offer free shipping for items over $500, or the buyer is responsible for the shipping and they just email you a label that you print out, and it's honestly quite seamless in that way. But the thing is, Poshmark is kind of full of people that are really looking for a bargain. And I mean, really looking for a bargain. The amount of lowballers that I've come across on Poshmark is just, it's actually so ridiculous that I can't help but laugh at it, because they would offer like the minimum that they could even offer for any specific item, because I think Poshmark does set a minimum that you can offer that's either like 20% of your listed price or 30% or something like that. So I get those numbers so often, and it's not even worth it negotiating with them, because it is, from my experience, just a waste of time. So I would say that if you're listing something on Poshmark, you want to always list it for maybe around 30% higher than you are okay with selling it at, because people will never buy an item outright. They will always offer something that is quite a bit lower, and you can kind of go back and forth. So yeah, keep that in mind. And also, every time you post something, there is so many comments from scammers that will say, email me at whatever email address, and I am so looking forward to buying this. I am serious about buying this item. And don't even entertain those people. I don't know what elaborate scheme they're trying to pull, but it is definitely a scam, and just don't do that. And as I mentioned before, Poshmark really isn't a platform that caters specifically to people buying and selling luxury items. So it won't be as easy to sell a luxury item on Poshmark as it would be on a place like the Realreal. But what I found is that there are certain luxury items that do quite well for me on Poshmark. So I've had really good luck selling things from Christian Louboutin and Valentino on there. So things that are not just trendy for people who are very up to date with the hottest items in the luxury world. So, you know, people in general know about Christian Louboutin and about the Valentino frock studs because those have been around for quite a few years, and even if you don't spend a lot of time on social media, you might still know about those brands compared to, you know, something like Bottega Veneta that I don't think as many people know about. So if you have items that have been around for a long time and are a little bit more mainstream, I think those still sell really well on Poshmark. But if something is worth over $1,000, I definitely wouldn't use Poshmark for it. So now let's talk about eBay. And everyone has heard about eBay, right? I mean, it's been around for so long, but I kind of feel like it's to its own detriment because as the years go by, I feel like more and more people are starting to move away from using eBay as their go-to platform for buying and selling items. And I can kind of understand why, because eBay is so incredibly outdated when it comes to the user interface, especially when you compare it to something like Poshmark, for example, because for me personally, I mainly use eBay and Poshmark to sell things. And when I go on Poshmark to list something for sale, I can get it posted in under 5 minutes. But when I list that same exact thing on eBay, it takes me like half an hour. So even when I have all the photos ready to go, I find myself pushing that task off until I have a good amount of time to really sit down at my computer and fill out all the necessary fields and make sure everything is all completed in order to post it on eBay. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels that way. So when you have a sort of cycle of sellers not wanting to list their items on a platform, there's no reason for buyers to go on that platform, and it just spirals so that there isn't as much traffic on there as there once was. I do think though that you still do get a decent amount of views for your post when you list something on eBay for sale. At least in my opinion, the things that I've sold there in the past couple of months, it's not entirely all bad. And eBay does have some pros to it also. So for example, they only take about 13% or so of your sale compared to the 20% at Poshmark. The shipping though is a little bit of a, there's some good things about it and some bad things about it. So you do set your own shipping price, or you can offer free shipping, but it's up to you to calculate how much shipping will be. So even when I charge the buyer shipping, I have this tendency to undercharge for shipping. So I end up just paying a little bit out of my own pocket from the sale price. So, but that's totally on me. And another thing about eBay is that they do have this global shipping program where you can ship outside of your country. So if someone wants to buy it from Europe when I'm in the US, that is possible. Whereas on something like Poshmark, you have kind of like a smaller audience because you have to be based in the US for that. So yeah, there are some bright sides to eBay, but it's not my go-to option for sure. It's not something that I would really consider listing on there unless I kind of know for sure that I'm able to get more from selling it on eBay than I would elsewhere. So for example, I find that kind of like moderately priced things do well on eBay. So I have had pretty good luck selling my SLGs on eBay. And something that really shocked me was Irma's scarves sell for quite a fortune on eBay. So I've sold one of my scarves on there and I actually made money by selling that scarf on eBay, even after paying the 13% to eBay. So yeah, that was kind of surprising. So I would say that you should do your research, just look things up on eBay to see how much they have sold for. And if it's more than you can get elsewhere, then by all means put it on eBay. But If that's not really the case, then I would say look elsewhere, because eBay has kind of all the same issues with the scams and everything that I mentioned on Poshmark. If anything, I feel like eBay scammers are even more well-versed in the scams that they're pulling off, because eBay has been around for so long and scammers have really figured out how to cheat the system, especially since eBay has not really modernized that much since it was first created. So yeah, just keep that in mind. It's not my favorite choice, but I think it is still kind of like a staple that you can fall back on if that is your best bet. Next, let's talk about the Realreal, which is mainly a consignment-based platform, but in some cases they may offer to buy outright an item from you. But for me personally, I've never had that happen. But just keep in mind that in general, when you consign something versus just selling it outright to a company like the Realreal, you will typically get more for your item if you consign it versus just directly selling it to them. But there are exceptions to that. I just wanted to put that out there. That's not always the case that you'll get more from consignment. So anyways, back to the Realreal. Let's just say that their commission structure is confusing, to say the least. I will put a picture of their commission structure on the screen right here, and there's just so many parts to it. So there are tiers for how much commission you get based on how much money you sell with them a year. And then there's also certain categories that you get certain amounts of commission for also. So it's all very confusing and I don't even try to understand it anymore. So when I was first deciding if I wanted to consign with the Realreal, I filled out this kind of inquiry form on their website and I left my contact information, and they were so pushy. I just have to say that was very off-putting how pushy they were, because they started to text me and call me and email me. And personally for me, I hate it when people call me. Like, do not call me unless it is an emergency. I absolutely hate it. So yeah, I found that to be a little bit pushy, but the good thing is that they do kind of have like someone that is your point of contact that they set you up with. So if you have any questions, you can just reach out to them directly instead of having to contact customer service and waiting on hold, and you get like a new agent every single time. So that is something that is good about it. And I will say that the Realreal does price things at kind of like a acceptable price to begin with, but do keep in mind that on their website, on the homepage, and I think like every single page, they do advertise this 20% off promotion, and you can basically expect a customer to apply that promotion, because why wouldn't they? And from what I've seen on their website, most items do qualify for that 20% off promotion. There are a bunch, typically from places like Chanel, Hermes. A lot of handbags, for example, those are excluded from the 20% off promotion. So just do some research on the website yourself to see if similar items to what you're thinking of consigning with them qualifies for the 20% or not, so you can judge how much you'll actually make from that item. So as I've mentioned so far, they list it for a certain price. You might get 20% off deducted from how much you'll earn from it, and then there is this kind of confusing commission rate. So it's all very hard to figure out how much you might potentially get from the item, which is where this contact person might actually come in handy. So yeah, there are kind of pros and cons to using the Realreal. It is very hands-off, and I think that is the major pro about it, and they will take almost everything to sell for you. I just don't like the uncertainty of not knowing how much I will get from a sale. So for example, when I sell something to Fashionphile, I get a quote from them and I can choose to accept it or not, and then I would send them the item. And if I were to sell something on Poshmark or eBay, I can choose to accept or reject any offer that is sent my way. But that's not really the case for the Realreal. So For me personally, that's why I don't really like it that much. But as I mentioned before, you do get more from consignment typically than you would from selling something outright to a company. So if you want to get more for your item and you don't really want to put in as much work to sell it on your own through eBay, Poshmark, or Instagram, Facebook groups, or whatever, then consignment may be the best choice for you. It just isn't for me, but I do think it is still a solid choice. So I've already briefly mentioned Fashionphile in this video, but now let's talk about them specifically. So I think that Fashionphile, Yoogi's Closet, and Rebag are all pretty similar, but for Rebag and Yoogi's Closet, I've only gone as far as getting quotes from them. I've never actually sold them anything, so I'll touch on those two briefly after I talk about Fashionphile first. So Fashionphile is a company where they buy out your items from you and then they will try to sell it. So the whole process is pretty straightforward. If you think you want to sell them something, you submit photos of your item and the description about the wear and tear for a quote on their website, and then they'll get back to you in a few days with a number. And if you want to accept that price, then they'll give you a prepaid shipping label for you to ship the item out to them in California, where they will verify that you describe the condition properly and authenticate it, and then after all that, they'll pay you. And in my experience, this whole process takes about 2 weeks on average from when you submit the item for a quote to when you get paid. And honestly, that is pretty good. I mean, you might not get the most money compared to if you were to sell it on your own, but sometimes it's better to make a little bit less money but be able to get some money out of it, because sometimes if you were to sell it on your own, it might sit there for 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, or you might never be able to sell it. But I will say that Fashionphile is not always consistent with their prices. So sometimes you might get one quote that is higher or lower than a previous quote you've gotten for the same exact item. So this actually happened to me recently because I sold them something only after the third quote that I got, because the first two quotes were the same number and that number was too low in my opinion. So I waited and I submitted it for a third quote, and the third quote was close to 30% higher than the first two, and that is honestly quite substantial. So unless you are in a hurry, I would say that if you submit it for a quote and you think it's a little bit too low, just let that quote expire and then resubmit it again, because sometimes depending on the time of year it is or who's reviewing the inquiry, the price they offer might differ. And this is definitely something that I personally wish I knew way back around in 2016 when I first sold things to Fashionphile, because I would submit an item for a quote and they'll get back to me with a number and I would just think, well, that's probably how much it's worth, so I would just accept it. But then you'll see that they sell these items for 2 times or 3 times higher on their website, and then you feel kind of duped. But yeah, you live and you learn. So what I have learned though is that Fashionphile is actually a great tool for doing research on how to price your items, even if you ultimately decide to sell it elsewhere. So what I would do is I would get kind of like a ballpark number for how much they're willing to offer me, and then I would take that number and then apply some math to figure out how much I would need to sell it for on a place like Poshmark and eBay, so that, you know, after the commission and everything gets deducted, I would net the same price as on Fashionphile. And sometimes I might actually realize that chances of me selling it for that price on Poshmark or whatever is actually slim. So in cases like that, it might just make more sense for me to sell it to Fashionphile. And I do think that Fashionphile consistently does offer the highest prices compared to Yoogi's Closet and Rebag, which is basically why I've never sold anything to those other 2 companies. I mean, that might not be the case for everyone. I'm sure that sometimes they are giving people more money than Fashionphile, otherwise, you know, those companies just wouldn't stay in business. But I would say for you to just request quotes from all these different sites, because getting a quote is free. And honestly, I think that they're all pretty reputable companies. So at the end of the day, whoever pays you the most gets your business. So I don't think that necessarily Fashionphile is better than the other two. It just so happens that for me personally, they've always offered me the most. So I've been talking for so long that I can hear myself losing my voice, so apologies for my voice getting raspier and raspier as the video progresses. But this is the end of today's video, and I hope that there was a lot of helpful and useful information in this video for you guys. And if you liked it, please do give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments down below your experiences selling your luxury items. Which platforms have you had the most luck with, and do you prefer to get more money out of it, or do you prefer to get your money faster? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And also, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do consider subscribing for new videos on luxury and fashion every single week. And I'll leave 2 videos on the screen for you to watch next, so I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.